So this is just some insight on what happened to me when I went above my manager and spoke to her manager. At this point, it's fair game because the way they did me was grimy and dirty, and I feel like people need to know about it. So take a listen if you got some time. Get your popcorn and your butter and your candy ready, baby, because you in for a show.
That time, and that led to the Shield memo. Then you talked about Dusty calling you girl when she administered the memo.
It has a racial connotation to that. That's what that means
to me. So I will tell you that Susan and I talked about that.
Susan is white and would not understand
and I'm
that.
Black, and I don't see a racial connotation to it either.
Because you know Dusty.
So what?
That's because y'all have a relationship.
Well, here's the thing. Susan is a professional in HR, and so she's trained to address all issues, right? And in the context in which Dusty used it, neither of us saw it as anything that has a racial connotation towards it. I would tell you, if you feel like you need to take some other actions around that, you can do what you feel to do, but we don't see it in that way. And Susan and I had a conversation about it. Yeah. I don't see a suit that you have. You can file suit if you want to. I don't care. You don't have a suit. You have a disagreement or a personality conflict between you and your team manager. She called me a girl.
It's more than just
okay, well, I'm not going to go back over that. So here's the thing, Haley. You got to work with Dusty until you get another position, or you decide this isn't the right job for you, or you change your dependability, whatever that looks like. You're reporting to Dusty.
Now, like most of the conversation was about my reliability and not about her hostility towards me as a person.
So I addressed that. So you got to go back to what I initially said.
How is that going to change, though?
So
because we did talk about it.
We did, and here's what I said.
Me and her talked about it.
I don't owe you an explanation on how I'm going to address it with her. I told you I would address it.
No, I'm not asking you to tell me how you're going to address it with her. I'm saying me and her already spoke. We did. We talked about how she was towards me. We talked to each other. We already did that. And we're here. That's why
So what's happened recently? Tell me what happened recently. Why are we here today? If this happened in January and now we're 5 months later, what recently happened? If you guys talked about it, tell me what happened recently.
Well, there were things in between. Like she just called me girl like 3 days ago.
So it's not necessarily the girl comment.
It is for me. So it's disrespectful to me.
I'm saying why I won't make the decision.
Okay. Because the thing about it is like calling a Black woman girl coming from a white woman's space is like calling a Black man boy while a white man is calling a Black man boy. It's the same thing. So, she's never called me girl ever.
So I've talked to Dusty, obviously. She reports to me, right? And she said girl to me before. I didn't take it that way. So when you say...
But I don't know her, so it's just...
when you say calling a Black girl that, I guess it's perspective, because I don't take it that way. That's the way she talks. I see that as something that I can coach her on and say you have to be careful with your relationships and how you communicate with an individual. Right?
Well, if the things prior hadn't happened, I would feel that way. But because those things have happened up into that situation, that's what makes me feel like, well, where's this going? We don't have a relationship. So for her to say, girl,
so listen to what I said. I said, I hear you, but I don't see that as a reason for me to move you from her team. I see that's an opportunity for me to coach her and make sure she's more careful with the word choices that she has. And that's the same conversation that Susan and I had when I talked to her last week.
And so while coaching her, what does that look like for me and how I feel disrespected?
Mm-hmm. So you bring your concerns to me and then I address them. I don't necessarily have to tell you how I address them and what I do in that space, right? But that's an opportunity for me to have a conversation with her. But I won't follow up with you on how I handle it.
Well, I don't need a follow up as to how you handle her, but I want to know what it looks like for me moving forward with a person that's already.
You have to report to her. Mm-hmm. So for me, what it looks like is you should maintain a level of professionalism with her, and she should maintain a level of professionalism with you. So
at what point does I guess preventative measures take place before, because I feel disrespected and I was disrespected. So
in what way and when?
Well, the very first day I met her, that was disrespect. I mean,
so what I would say is, so you've been on her team since December, January time frame. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna go back. 6 months and say, okay, now I'm going to go back 6 months and say, I'm going to make a decision based on something that's happened 6 months ago. HR is not going to do that either, right? You guys have worked together since that time, right? So we're not going to go back that far and say, okay, based on this, unless it's something that was egregious and we feel like it violates an HR policy, we would take a look at it, maybe if it's new information that's brought to light. But this is more of maybe a communication issue. So I'm not going to go back and make a decision from 5 or 6 months ago.
Well, she just called me, girl, like 3 days ago. I want to be in an environment where I feel comfortable and safe enough to do my job and not be worried about somebody pouncing on my back. That's my point. So I don't really... There's nothing you can coach her on doing if she is like that. Like you said, it's personality issues.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. Any conversations that I have with Dusty, I will have those conversations with Dusty. I won't follow up with you on that. So when you say there's nothing you can coach her on, really, I handle that the way I see fit. I just want to be very clear. Have any dialogue with Dusty, I'll have that independent of having that conversation with you.
That didn't really answer my question about being in a safe environment, though.
So neither Susan or I we don't feel like it's an unsafe environment.
Well, it's not y'all that's in the situation.
Okay. So, but we're not making any personnel changes as a result of what you shared with us.
Okay. Is there a reason why?
I just told you. We don't feel like it's, we feel like it's a personality conflict. You have an opportunity to communicate better, and maybe she has an opportunity to communicate better. But we don't see it as a reason to change teams. And regardless of what team you go to, you're still going to have to communicate with your TM. You're still going to have to come to work. You're still going to have to be in office during the in-office week. That's not going to change.
Yeah, that's not the issue, though. Being in office or any of that, having communication is not a problem for me. As you can see here, I'm communicating.
I would say you do have
I like to be
opportunity
heard.
in communications. You do. Just based on the interaction that I'm having with you, I would say there is an opportunity for you to have better communications.
I just want to be heard and understood of why I feel the way I feel.
So I want to make sure you know I heard you. I understand the way you feel. That doesn't change the decision to move you to another team.
Right.
It doesn't. And I would tell you, if I were to talk to any of my peers about the situation, they would agree with me. I think I can go talk to any of my peers here, and they would handle this situation the same way. And you know what? I actually have a meeting with my claim manager. I'll run it by him. I would tell you, he's not going to say that's one where you move the person to another team.
Well, it's different coming from someone else's mouth than me specifically saying that I've been disrespected numerous times by my manager, called out of my name, and been talked it down to. And I mean, yeah, it's a reason to feel the way I feel. So I don't understand why it can't be a simple fix and me switch to a different team, but
it's not one of the reasons why we make team changes, is what I would tell you. That's it. And it's my decision, and I don't see it that way. And Susan consulted with me before you and I met, and she agreed. She said, I don't see it either.
And so what do you do if somebody disrespects you?
It depends on the situation. So right now, what I'm telling you is, and I think I've answered this question 3 times, you have to work with Dusty. You have to be professional, and she has to be professional. If you feel like she crosses a line, what I would tell you is, let me know. I will bring HR into it and say, hey, we've got a situation where
that's where we are right now.
Well, and we don't feel that where we are right now is one where it's a situation where we would move your team. Yeah, okay. We just don't agree with it.
But what you just said.
So if it's something that's more egregious or something, or you said, if you told me, hey, this is continuing, or she continues to call me girl, I've asked her not to, because you said you could have a conversation with her. And I told you I had a similar conversation with one of my peers, right? And so if she continues and let me know, then I think once you ask somebody.
And this is just a snippet of the type of manager she was. The girl asked her, was there a list today? And she said, you tell me.
If that was the only problem, then I would not be in
And that's how she responds to her employees.
Basically told me
this is the type of manager she is, and she still worked there. That's crazy.
I'm not right now.
Oh, but believe me, I have way more to come. She wrote me up and didn't even tell me about it. Wait till you hear about that. Because come to find out, it wasn't even my fault, but yet I got rolled up for it. I wonder why.